Awesome. So we are live and welcome to Passive Wealth Geeks. And we have a very special guest with us, Lucas Roth. Lucas, thank you so much for joining in and kind of speaking up for our audience and talking about things that you do. So I'll just give a quick introduction and please forgive me if I butcher it. But Lucas Roth, so you're a CFA, CPA, and a realtor and a real estate investor and kind of in the same city as I am. So in Seattle area, you have your own YouTube channel and you do bunch of other things within real estate. Maybe you can kind of help us better with more of that
Yeah.
introduction, all the things that you do.
Yeah. I guess I'll just get into it going way back. I studied accounting and finance in college. I did accounting and public accounting. So I worked at Ernst& Young for a couple of years. Didn't like sitting at a desk, didn't like staring at a computer all day. So then I went into commercial real estate investment underwriting. So I was on an acquisitions team. We basically bought institutional assets in core markets on the West Coast. So it tended to be office buildings. So it was kind of like a high end, real estate analysis job. But even that, even though it was in real estate and I loved certain aspects of it, just working at a job wasn't really for me. So from there, I made a very unusual career change and became a real estate agent, which everybody was scratching their heads about. But to me, that was the way to basically build my own wealth. I was tired of like working on other people's deals, doing other people's things, doing what they told me. And I just felt like, well, I'm as smart as anybody else. Why don't I just work in a field where I can kind of put in my time, make money, make commissions, but at the same time, be in the mix and putting my own money to work as well. And so basically being a real estate agent is kind of like half working for other people. It's kind of like it starts out being like 90% working for other people and then 10% trying to work on your own deals, but you don't have any money, right? But slowly over time, after a few years, you make some money, you put your money into your own little properties. And then as time goes by, you end up spending less and less time working on other people properties and more time investing in yourself. And so basically that was 10 years. I put in 10 years as an agent. Last year, I left that and now I'm just
Oh,
not an agent at all. I mean, I am an agent, but I don't do any work as an agent. And last year I made a transition. So I moved to Portugal. So I was in Seattle for the last, over a decade. And then now I'm in Portugal, chilling. So it's been a cool transition. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the way we got into touch basically was like, and again, sorry, I got to step back a little bit, just so people even understand
sure.
what I'm doing out here. But so like
Please.
when I started in, doing basically when I got married, right? I got married in 2008. And at that time I was 25 years old. And I said, okay, I and my wife and together, we said, all right, we don't want to be working at 40. So before I turned 40, I wanted to retire from like work. And so that was always the goal. And so it came to be like about 2 years ago, I'm 38. And I'm just like, man, we've done a lot of work. We have invested in properties. At that time, we owned about, I want to say like 4 houses, a duplex, a triplex. We had some stuff, but it wasn't at a point where I was going to be letting go. It wasn't there. And so I was like, okay, at this point, for me to really retire and not work, we got to do something bigger than what we've done. Like we can't just do the same thing we've been doing for the last 8 years. So at that point, I was like, okay, I got to make money. And that's what got my wheels turning. And so I started looking at every asset class, every asset type. And I ended up saying no to multifamily because the returns just weren't there. And I said no to retail. I said no to office. I said no to everything. And ultimately, I ended up with hospitality, so motels. And the reason why was because I came upon this deal, and the deal was on the commercial MLS, which is publicly available. It's not like you have to. I actually was a commercial broker, but you don't have to be a commercial broker to go on there and find deals. And there was just like a property listed in Colville, Washington, which is the middle of nowhere, northeastern Washington State. And this thing was listed for sale for $650,000, and it supposedly had made $115,000 NOI in the previous year. So that cap rate is like talking about, I mean, you're up there close to 20%. It's like 17% or something like that. So that just
Oh,
blew my mind. All of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, okay, this is what I've been looking for. All those searching, all those talking, all those brokers, pawing through all those deals, just nothing felt good. And suddenly this was like, wow, this is something I need to understand. So anyways, I don't know if you want to talk about the deals of that or the details of that, but that's what
Yeah,
got me
no,
into hospitality.
I mean, it is so amazing, right? I mean, you had like pretty strong fundamentals up to you had like a very clear goal, and then you kind of went for it, and you knew exactly what you're looking for in the gold nugget. And it is so amazing. There are so many things we can talk about here, especially the 20% cap. I mean, that's like unheard of in Seattle. And like you forget about
Yeah,
multifamily. People are so excited just to like break even or even pay out of pocket. Sometimes I've seen like they're excited about it because the prospects of somehow things will shoot up. There's this other aspect of like you getting into, you're a broker, and you also decided to become a commercial broker, which is also very interesting because like there is a lot of excitement in the Pacific Northwest to be residential broker. And I'm also very curious, like what kind of drove that, like being in the commercial. And I want to also dive a little bit into that before the deal, if you can tell
sure,
us, something
sure.
about.
Yeah, and so I'll be honest with you. I was a commercial broker in the sense that I belonged to the CBA, so the Commercial Brokers Association. So I had kind of access to those forms and those classes, and so I could live in that world. But what made me comfortable, kind of saying I was a commercial broker, is because I spent a couple years doing underwriting investments. So I kind of talked. I mean, and frankly, it's not complicated. If anybody wants to be like, I want to get in the commercial side of things, take some of those CBA classes. There's one in particular that just is really heavy on the metrics. I mean, just learn cap rates, NOIs, gross rent multipliers. There's a few, metrics you just want to learn. And then you kind of speak the language, and then it's like any other job. You just kind of get in the mix, do your thing, and you'll figure it out. But I made all my money on the retail side, so like the residential side of things. So because commercial broke, frankly, residential was, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was, it was comfortable. It was relatively easy for me to kind of get in there and start making money. The commercial side of things, I didn't do leasing. I didn't do a lot of stuff. I was mostly just trying to do some transactions, and multifamily tended to be the thing that I was most comfortable doing. But yeah, so I don't even remember if that answered your question, but yeah, I don't want to sell myself as
No,
heavy
definitely.
commercial, but yeah.
Definitely. And I think you mentioned about things on like underwriting and whatnot. You've done all of those things. I have to tell you before we get into deal analysis, right? So I have been looking at multifamily all across, like outside of obviously Washington, because like things numbers don't make sense here, but like in emerging markets out in Midwest, Southeast, and it is just incredible. Like like even there, these kind of cap rates are unheard of. In fact, I don't feel like I have seen a multifamily in 10 plus cap rates pretty
Yeah,
much ever, right? There might be some other value add and all that that can get you like a better cash on cash, but nothing like a 10 cap straight out the bat. So that's pretty interesting. So if you want to get into like one of the motels that you got into, and if you can get into like what the deal looked like, and
yeah,
what
yeah.
was your exit strategy, or are you planning to just buy and hold and all those good stuff, if you can tell us.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like not finding a cap rate at 10%, me neither. I mean, it's like everything else. If you want to be in a good market with a good property, your cap rate is going to be so low. It's going to be 5% or whatever it is around there. And then you try to do whatever you can to stretch the cap rate. You go outside of the core. You find something that needs to be fixed up. Hopefully, you can find something that's off market, so it's a little bit, equity built into the deal. You try to pull all these levers. At the end of the day, though, nothing got me anywhere close to just switching to hospitality. And so, yeah, so like I say, so I found this property. It was just listed on the internet. Anybody with the internet could find it. It had been listed for not a year, but like I think it was like 8 months or 10 months or something like that. I mean, it'd been on the market for forever. It had been put under contract multiple times, about 3 times. When I showed up to it, it was just kind of one of those things like, I know when it says like, okay, making, basically 10 grand a month in NOI and the price is like 650, I know something is missing. I know I don't have all the information, right? But you just kind of say, okay, well, I'm just going to follow the rabbit hole wherever it goes and just kind of figure it out. So I put it under contract. I don't try to overthink it before I put it under contract, because you're not going to get the info. You're not serious till you write the offer, right? So write the offer. I get under contract, and then like after talking to the agent, I never talked to the owner directly, but I got in touch with the manager. They kept saying, "Oh no, the manager's great. The manager's wonderful." Finally, I end up talking with the manager, and she's like, "Okay, well, I can talk to you while I'm cleaning this room. But yeah, what do you want to know?" And so I'm just like, "Okay, who's working there with you?" "Nobody right now. It's just me. That's why I'm so busy." Yeah, she's cleaning every room. I'm like, "Okay, so they say you're a great manager. Do you want to stay?" She's like, "I don't know. We could talk about that." I'm kind of like, okay, obviously this person's like a go-getter. She's hustling. What's going on? Like, if it's so profitable, again, the owner was not living there, had nothing to do with the management. So he was just passively making 10 grand in the operating income. This is what I've been told. So eventually she's just like, "Okay, well, you just want to know why he's selling it, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, just why would he sell something that's making him $10,000 a month? Why would he sell it if he's not even doing anything? He's just collecting the money." She goes, "Well, he's selling it because," and I fast forwarded it. This time I'm at the property. So I'm actually doing a site visit. I drive 6 hours away to Colville because I live in Seattle at the time. Drive 6 hours, get there. She's like, "All right, I'll tell you. He's selling it because I'm going to quit. And so he knows once I quit, then the property is not going to run, and he won't make any money, and he won't be able to sell it. So I'm waiting for him to sell it, and then I'm going to quit." So I'm like, "Well, that's why nobody's bought it, right?" She's like, "Yeah, they know I'm not going to stay, and so they don't want to buy it if I'm not going to stay." I was like, "All right, so what do you want to stay? Like, what would make you stay? Do you just not like the job?" She's like, "I like the job. I like being here. My boyfriend's going to start working here, so this is a good spot for me. But you'd have to hire a cleaner." I'm like, "What's going on? What do you mean hire a cleaner?" She's like, "Well," I'm like, "He won't hire a cleaner?" She's like, "Well, he will hire a cleaner, but he'll only pay them $15 an hour.
Yeah.
And so I can't keep a cleaner. So I clean every single room. In a year and a half, I've had one day off. And I work every day, and I wake up at like 5 a.m. and I clean everything. And it's just, I'm too much. I'm burned out. I'm not going to do it." I'm like, "So, all right, so you need a cleaner." I was like, "How much do I need to pay a cleaner to get a cleaner that's good, that will stay?" She's like, $20 an hour. I was like, "Okay, so if I buy it and I authorize you to find a cleaner and pay them $20 an hour, so you have a good cleaner, will you stay?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'll stay." So that was like the fundamental question or problem that hadn't been solved. And like the way I think about it is like, there's so much money to be made out there, but to make money, you have to solve a problem for somebody, right? Somebody has a problem and you have to solve it. If you can't solve nobody's problem, then you can't make any money. In this case, the problem was actually super simple. To me, it was super simple, but the previous owner just had his way of doing things and would only pay $15 an hour, could not keep cleaners, and therefore couldn't keep this insanely great manager that was managing this property, was making him so much money. It makes no sense, but that's the situation he found himself in. So before I even had it under contract, we had it agreed. Okay, you find the cleaner, you pay them $20 an hour, you stay, and that's what happened. So
That that
yeah.
is amazing. And I mean, I would really like to go back a little bit to kind of talk about some of the things like before the operator, when you found the deal, was this a deal like you found, like you mentioned, like you went, straight off probably LoopNet or something, or you had through a listing agent or direct contact with the seller?
Yeah, good question. It was not on LoopNet. Most deals are on LoopNet. This one was not. It was only on commercialmls.com. So you literally just type in commercialmls.com, and that's the commercial broker's listing, like whatever service for Washington and Idaho. So you'll have, every once in a while there'll be a deal on there that's not on LoopNet, and this was one of those cases. But yeah, you don't need to be a broker to get on there. It's just publicly available information. Yeah, so that's
Got it.
what
It was listed through an agent, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So there was a listing agent. He had popped it up on there. He was a commercial broker. Like I said, I was a commercial broker. I had the right form, so I sent him the offer, and that he, so yeah. But
Okay.
even if you're not a commercial broker, you can write offers on commercial properties with, purchase and sale agreements from, I mean, people do it from lawyers, from online, from the MLS, the residential MLS. So it can be done.
Right. No, I mean that's wonderful. And I think what was also exciting is I mean you not only put your offer, but like you made the extra attempt to actually go and talk to the manager and talk to the staff and everything and try to
Yeah.
get some intel beforehand. It's really interesting. And kind of going back to our point around cap rates and going back to this deal, do you think a reason why they're such high, suddenly there are high cap rates last couple of years, I've been reading about, especially in the Pacific Northwest, cap rates in motels have gone up, and it is just basically mismanagement is what I'm hearing. And I wonder if that's really what's going on across the country also.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Great question. All I can give you is my guess. Obviously, I don't know, but to me, having owned a motel for a year and a half at this point, and we bought a second one a year ago, so now we have two. But anyways, just from this experience, I understand why the cap rates are high, and I think the biggest reason they're high is because of labor and management. Kind of put them all in the same bucket. So it's kind of like if you have a great manager, then I think you'll make money. And if you don't, you'll just lose money. And how many really great managers are there out there? There's just not that many. And so, you have to find cleaners. You're constantly, the wages are so high and the motivation. So like just using this first motel as an example, is in Colville, Washington, which is a population of a few thousand, like 2,500, something like that. It's very small. And it's like, there's so many people without jobs out there, and yet nobody wants to work. We're like advertising cleaner, and we end up we're advertising. A cleaner will pay up to 20. Okay, we'll pay up to 21. We'll pay up to 22, and it's like people are just coming in, filling out applications, and then just so that they can submit to their unemployment, and they can, it's just like there's just people that don't want to work, and so it is a constant battle, I think, to staff a motel and staff it with good people, and then keep it fixed up. That's the reason why you deserve the cap rate to be high, because it's like it's not hospitality is not passive the way multifamily. I mean, even multifamily takes work, but
Yeah.
Hospitality is it's a whole nother level. You have full-time employees working that you're managing, and so that's kind of a leap that I had to make the money to make me comfortable. Like, okay, let's let go and let's go to Portugal. You know what I mean? We had to make that kind of jump. And I think a lot of people just are not willing to make that jump. They're cool buying the multifamily, managing that with a property manager. It's somewhat comfortable, but to go that next level, you need to get paid. It's a whole nother ball game in terms of, stuff that can go wrong. Because you're buying the real estate and then you're managing a business all the way on top of it.
Right.
So it's quite a bit. So yeah, to answer your question, I think that's exactly right. I think as it's harder to hire and retain good people, then you demand more and more money for doing that work of like managing.
Very cool. Now, and so I want to go to now the real estate and the business part of it, and maybe we can talk about the numbers and the financing also.
Yeah,
So, can you tell us a little bit about what was the deal size and things like what's the expense ratio like, and how
sure,
much NOI and those kind of things.
sure, yeah. So like when I was under due diligence to buy this first motel, they gave me their tax returns, which showed I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was basically like 320,000 revenue for this motel. And so the motel, it was for this is for 650. But in my kind of like investigation, I saw that they owned the vacant parcel right next to it, and
Hmm.
and that wasn't included in the listing. And so I offered them 650 for both, like the motel plus the vacant land. The owner said no. If you want that one, I want 700.
Hmm.
And I told them 675. He said no, 700. I said fine, 700. So I ended up buying both for 700. The motel is 18 rooms plus a manager's apartment. There's about 5 rooms that have kitchenettes. and then the rest are just the building was built at different times. You got all kinds of different, but it's a pretty low, low rent motel. It's not a it's of the three motels in the town, it's the cheapest one. So
That is
anyways,
go ahead.
so yeah, so that's kind of gives you a sense of like the deal size. The financing side of it was we had to put down 25% down payment, and so we got a
Not bad.
75% loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, and what made it work was the motel was cash flowing so well. So to get back to the income side of things, yeah, 320,000 roughly revenue. It was like 210,000 roughly expenses. So about 66% expenses. And the NOI was about 110, 100. It was like 112,000, something like that. So right around 10, almost 10 grand a month. And so that's what made the deal finance, right? So me buying my first motel. So I didn't know at the time, but like I went through, I bought it. The bank I used was called Banner Bank, which was a local bank, had a branch right next to the motel. Ended up being huge problems. I wouldn't recommend working with them, but they did give me the loan. But anyways, the next motel I bought, a couple people were like, "Oh, you bought that motel?" They're like, "I can't believe you bought that motel with 25% down." Because to them they were like, "Oh yeah, I don't know how that deal worked," but basically the cash profile of the property was strong, and so even though I was new to the game in terms of hospitality properties, I had some income as a real estate agent, and I had some cash reserves. So anyways, they made it work. But yeah, so to bring you from there to today, we bought the property, and just as like I suspected, they were making really great cash, but they weren't investing into their people, meaning they weren't paying, like the manager was just doing everything. And so they were burning her out, and they were also not investing in the property, right? They weren't like doing a good job maintaining and making the property real nice and stuff. They were just kind of like, fixing what really was desperate to be fixed. So once we bought it, we basically, the first year, so we bought it in January 2022, right? And so last year we didn't get any money out of it, because whatever money it made, it went back into the property. So we replaced all the windows. We remodeled some of the rooms. We did all like the hot water tanks, things like that. So I probably put in about 10 grand, but roughly it paid for itself. And then we pulled that manager to their second motel. And at that time, so there was a period of like several months where there was no manager there, right? And she was managing it remotely. So these weren't good months. We were kind of, breaking even, losing a little money these months. And then at the beginning of this year, we put in a friend of mine to manage that motel. And since then, it's been making, it kind of like took a little while to ramp up, but now it seems to be making about 10 grand a month again. So, and this is in cash flow. So,
Did you see any like economies of scale with having the two motels now instead of one? Like, for example, common staff on something, or I mean, I don't know if they're geographically like too far apart or close by. I'm not sure, but were there any
yeah,
economy of scale that you started to see?
there were, and it was basically because of the manager. So they're about one. So the first one's in Colville, the second one is in Kashmir, and those are about like, I want to say 3.5, 4 hours away from each other. So it's not that close, but it's also a doable drive. Anyway, so the manager, since I put my manager back into I should say, since I got my new manager into Colville, then the manager who used to be there, that's now in Kashmir, she's managing him. So she's kind of showing him the ropes, getting on the phone with him. We check in every week. So that is really, really helpful, because otherwise he'd be just out there figuring everything out from scratch. And that's a rough kind of transition to have somebody just throw out there and just kind of figure it out. So yeah, that would be the economy of scale. It's not so much like, supplies or anything like that, but it is just like that human resource component of somebody who knows how to run a motel, being able to kind of like help the other one along, if that makes sense.
Got it. And then do you what about the other things that you have to worry about in short-term rentals, like the star ratings and all of that? Does that play a lot into motel, or is it, not too much?
Sorry, say that one more time. Which part?
What about the star rate, like the rating, Google review readings and all of that. Do that play too much into motel space or
I
not?
think
Not
it.
so.
I think it does. So that to be so the first motel, like I said, it's kind of like the cheapest one in the town. It's old. It's built in the 50s. There's only so much we can really do with it. I mean, like we've tried to fix it up as best we can, but it's kind of like there's going to be certain people. I mean, it's cinder blocks, for instance. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to show up and be like, "Oh, this place is gross." Like no matter what we do. And so I wish we could get all 5 stars, but we can't. I think we're at like 3.9 or something like that, which isn't great. But I'm just not really that worried about it because we provide a housing option for people that really need it and who can't otherwise afford anything else. And so we actually have like a really strong, like that motel. I actually love that motel because we can fill up on Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday, every single night we can fill. And the reason is because we have people staying there for like a week or 2 or 3, and they're going to be working for a month or whatever. And it's like they need that place and they'll stay there and they'll be happy with it and they'll come back over and over and over. So it's like those, really picky, like tourist type people, they're not as much of our like target kind of guest as much as and actually it works out because like I said, the people that we have staying, they usually stay multiple nights and they usually stay over and over. And so yeah, the property is going to have some quirks, but they kind of work with it, and it's like, hey, this is our most affordable option in the area, so for them it's totally worth it. So we're not as like I should say we're not as like worried about it from that sense. The second motel though is a good question. The second motel totally different, and I guess I haven't explained that one at all, but it's just entirely different positioning because we're in Kashmir, which is right next to Leavenworth. So it's tons of like tourists. They just want to go on Saturday night. It's very, very difficult in the off season to fill up any night except for Saturday night and maybe Friday night. So this is like a kind of a battle of like, okay, now we got to offer breakfast. Now we got to, fix up the motel a lot. Now we got to, it's a whole nother game. And so that's a whole other side of the industry that frankly, I'm learning now. We bought that one in July last year, and we've been fixing it up like crazy, and still doing a bunch of work on it. So
That is awesome. So, what was your? I want to talk about like. I mean, there seems like you had some sort of a long term play in this. Like, did you have like an exit strategy? Like after so many years, you're gonna exit and do something else, or is there a long term play, or what's the future for Lucas Roth in motel
yeah,
space?
cool. Yeah. Well, I would say so yeah, like I mentioned, our goal was like, hey, retire by 40. And we kind of like we bought these 2 motels and we're like, all right, we're good. We took off when I was 39, now I'm 40. But like that was my only like thing I cared about. That was the one goal that I had in my mind all the time that I was trying to make sure that I accomplished. And then but yeah, so I don't have or I didn't at the time have like a next step, like an exit strategy. I just wanted to buy it and stabilize it and then get the income and then basically like breathe and then use that platform like to like get used to that level and then use that to like go to whatever's the next step. And so yeah, the exit strategy was just my whenever I buy property, I mean, I flipped like a couple houses, but for the most part, when I try to buy something, I'm just trying to buy it, stabilize it, and then hopefully hold it forever. And then what always ends up happening is like I buy a property, we always buy it needs to get fixed up, so it takes us, like maybe a few months or whatever to like fix it up and like get it rented and stabilized. And then like, it'll make a little bit of money. And then basically 2 or 3 years later, then we refinance and we get a, chunk of money out. And then a few years after that, we refinance and get another chunk of money out. Now that
Mm.
rates are higher, we'll see if I can do that again, in a year or two, I don't know. But that tends to be like, we tend to try to not sell much and then just, refinance and take the money and buy other stuff. So,
Yeah, the rates are like getting there, and like so we've been looking a lot at like at least in multifamily, like looking at owner financing and those kind of things, if they're
yeah.
an option. But did you also consider like brief segue, I guess, but for the motel like SBA because SBA was also an option.
Yeah, I did. I mean, SBA loan, what was really attractive to me about that is that you can do 15% down with an SBA loan for motels, because it's like you're running a business in a real estate thing, but you can do 15% down and buy the real estate.
I was blown away when I heard that. Like you can do, like, even for some businesses, you can do 10% down. I guess
Yeah.
not for like it was my lender was telling me like 15% down would work. I was like, what? This is awesome.
So yeah, that when I first talked to the lender about that first motel, I was like, hey, I want to do 15% down. They're like, okay, we'll see, we'll see. And then they're like, okay, give us this, give us that, And then ultimately at the end of the day, they're like, no, you can't do the 15% down SBA, but you can do 25% conventional. Now, looking back at it, I think they were never really going to give me the SBA loan. You know what I mean? Because if it couldn't work on that property, I don't know. But I think these kinds of, like, one of the differences between residential and stepping over to commercial is commercial. I feel like the lending is so much more personalized and so much more like variable, right? Like if you're going to buy a house, say, okay, put down 5%, 20% is conventional. And it's very like, the same is uniform. But when you're buying like the second motel that I bought, this was completely a different property. It made zero money on the tax returns, right? So make zero money, I shouldn't be able to get a loan, right? Well, I got a loan, I put down 25%, and I bought it with a 75% loan. Why? It's because the lender was like, oh, okay, you already own a motel. Oh, okay, you've been in real estate 8-9 years. Oh, okay, you have some like retirement account. They just look at everything, and then they can kind of like make a judgment call and be like, all right. And that one, I actually did an SBA loan, and the only reason why the purchase worked with a 75% loan is because I was doing an SBA loan. So I was the owner operator, and so SBA was able to. This is getting a little bit into the weeds, but I'll just go into it real quick. So it's like this: your NOI, let's say the tax returns say the property makes no money, right? Well, the lender is like, okay, well, we're going to add back in amortization, depreciation, interest. And we're going to add these back in because those aren't like operating expenses, and we use NOI. NOI is only operating income.
Right.
So they add back in. They say, okay, instead of zero, you actually have like 40,000 a year or 50,000 a year of income. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I can, with 50,000 a year of income, that's like what, 4,000 a month. And then I can, the debt service coverage ratio is whatever it is. Well, that only supports a loan of like, 600,000 or something like that. But then they're like, okay, since it's an SBA loan and you are working there, then you don't have to pay yourself operating expenses for labor. Does that make sense? You're working in the property, so you're not paying anybody else. So all that money that they were paying for the employees, we're going to add that back in too, because we're just going to pretend that you don't make any money and you're not going to work at all. I mean, you're working, but you're not paying. So then, okay, now your NOI is up to like 80,000, and that's what allows you to support the purchase of the motel. If that does that, I know that's definitely in the weeds.
No, that's great, because you had to kind of show like how your debt service coverage ratio is meeting the threshold. And this was, you use the real estate side of the thing to show your depreciation and kind of add that back in to show your NOI. No, that's a brilliant strategy. But I'm guessing like then eventually you had like some tricks up your sleeves to get the NOI while you sit and enjoy coffee in Portugal. And turn this active hustle into a passive hustle, which is pretty damn impressive. So
well, I don't want to, just to tell you, like, I don't ever like to what do you say, like, pretend, right? So this second property, it's still a work in progress. We bought it like in July of last year, and we've put in like hundreds of thousands, about $550,000 we've put into the property. We've done the exterior, we've done the interior, we've done so much work on this property. And so basically this one is a very speculative bet, very different than our first motel was making a bunch of money already. This one, we felt like it wasn't being managed well, but we thought there was a really good opportunity because we liked the building, we liked the location and everything else. So anyways, like we've put a lot of money into it, but we haven't proven that yet. So basically, like now, basically starting now, we're just finishing everything now as far as like all the big rehab projects that we've been doing. And so from now to the end of the year, it should be making good money, but does we don't count the money till it's in our pocket. So we'll see.
Very cool. Do you got any last word for folks who are wanting to get into motel space? Whether it's Pacific Northwest or other where, like what to expect, what to not expect. Super high level, but like
Yeah,
some.
yeah, yeah. Um, what I like, what I tell people is like, whatever gets you excited, you will be able to do well, right? So for me, what excited me was the money side of things. It's not like I had some passion for hotellery or anything like that, right? But it was like I was like, this is what I need. I was like, I need this. There's nothing else that's going to get me retirement. This will get me retirement. So I will do what it takes. I will take the risk that it takes. I'll hustle on this side of things. And so I was like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it well. So I just say, like, if that's your attitude, if you're like, even if you're not like into hotels, but you're just like, well, this is the opportunity that I need to like get me to the next level of my wealth or retire or whatever it is, then I would say don't look 10 steps ahead, look one step ahead, right? Don't imagine, oh, what am I going to do in 3 years? Just be like, okay, can I get this property under contract? Okay, now I got under contract. Now, when am I going to go visit? Okay, now when am I going to inspect it? Okay, now when am I going to talk to the management? Okay, just think one step ahead. And that's how we do every big thing. We don't do it all at once. We just do one step at a time. And I just feel like hotels is like just one of many ways to make money. But at the end of the day, like, if you're willing to work, you're willing to solve problems that other people aren't willing to solve. Like, other people don't want to manage people, but you're okay to do that hustle, then do that hustle. If you're okay to like take a risk, then take the risk. It's like you won't regret the culmination of all those risks and all those hustles that you do, because ultimately they always pay off. So yeah, I would just say follow that path, whatever that next step is for you, do that, and you'll always end up okay.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm so excited that we could kind of talk about this, and folks who would be listening in are getting some awesome information. Are you still kind of like is there way people can reach out to you, or like maybe check out your YouTube channel? You want to maybe mention something?
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, I've been too lazy on that YouTube channel, but I have a website, lucasroth.com. If people want, and people do just hit me up randomly on that once in a while. So you can just, there's like a contact me kind of like form. People just shoot me messages on that. I get back. I think that's how you reach out to me, I think. So it's like, yeah, that stuff works. I'm always happy to, people have helped me out along the way. So I'm always happy to just kind of chat with people. If they think I have something worth saying, I'll say it. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, definitely. You have a lot of things worth saying, and I'm pretty excited. You got me excited into the motel space in Pacific Northwest. In fact, I will at some point in time I'll run by some of the things I've found. I've found something really close in a very hot area, but
Cool.
I would love to someday work out. Show you what I found out and hear your
Yeah, man.
thoughts, reviews as well.
Yeah, would
But
love to.
yeah, thank you. And I was so excited you were here, and was an awesome conversation. I hope you enjoy your time in Portugal,
Thank
and
you.
hope we can chat again soon.
And he's yeah, anytime. I'll be around in Seattle in the summer, so we can get
Oh,
together.
awesome. We got to meet up then. We got to for sure.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much, Uncle.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care.
You too, man. Have a good one.
Yeah.